So I was getting ready to film this vlog about resilience and grit last week, and then I pulled my back. It was like the universe saying, oh, you want to talk about resilience and grit? Well, let's give you a reason to talk about resilience and grit. So my overall message with this video is don't tempt fate by saying you're going to talk about resilience and grit, because you're probably just inviting an occasion to practice what you preach. But the experience of having to take care of my back, it's much better now, by the way, but it requires some good TLC. Needing to give attention to my physical body just kind of brought to light the lesson that I have already been learning about these two things, resilience and grit, during the pandemic. And one of the things that I have learned and realized, or maybe is just something you pick up on over the years, is the difference between holding up resilience and grit as a value and celebrating people who exhibit these traits, and then actually having to decide to do it yourself. What I mean by that is resilience and grit sound really great when you're talking about other people who admirably exhibit those traits, but the actual moments of needing to do those things, be resilient, show grit yourself, those moments are really hard. I mean, it makes sense, right? You can't claim to be resilient or to have grit unless you've actually gone through or are going through some level of difficulties. So that's kind of just wanted to get that out there first and foremost. I wanted to do a video about both resilience and grit because they're kind of two sides of the same coin, to use a cliche. Resilience, as I understand it, is getting back up again or facing an obstacle even after you've faced previous obstacles. It's this idea that even after a fall, you are going to rise up and keep going. And grit, on the other hand, I understand to be a dedication, a conviction, I believe Angela Duckworth, who wrote a book called Grit, she describes it as a stick-with-it-ness. And during the pandemic, I believe we were all called upon to practice both. I don't think I need to say too much about the fact that people were needing to be resilient all around me during the pandemic. Like, just because pandemic stopped life on some levels does not mean that life itself stopped for people. I feel like I could talk to almost anybody and then there would be a list of the things that happened over the past 2 years, ranging from death of loved ones to medical problems to work-related issues to mental health issues. It just seemed like people were being put through it, obstacle after obstacle. And each time another obstacle came up, it was a call to be resilient. And it's one thing to kind of know that you should be resilient. It's quite another thing to actually decide to be. Being resilient in and of itself is difficult. The idea that after blow, you're still going to get up and keep going, that is not an easy choice, especially if you've been through the ringer. And I don't know who is saying, be resilient, like this really easy thing, but it just feels like out in the culture, I don't know, this theoretical culture, we kind of just say, be resilient, like it's so simple, but the emotional crossroad of that moment when the fall has happened, the failure has happened, the hardship has happened, and the decision to then get back up, though crucial and though you might know you should do it, it's not easy. And to make it even more confusing, we want to be resilient combined with this idea that we should be kind to ourselves. So when my back was hurting, I had to decide, well, do I still want to film this vlog? Is it still worth it to talk through the pain and to be a living example of the resilience that I'm talking about? And ultimately, I decided, no, it's not worth it. I think I need to just lay down because my back is not feeling good. But that decision point of resilience meeting self-kindness make it even more tricky because you don't want to overdo it. You want to be able to rest and take care of your body so that you can be resilient. So what is that balance, that flow, if you will, as I talked about in a previous video? And ultimately, I think the answer is going back to flow, which is, yeah, sometimes you can't really tell when it's time to just get back up and muscle through versus when it's time to rest. And you might make a mistake in either direction, but hopefully you're not putting pressure on yourself in either way. And I think that's something I've noticed people acknowledging that they are pushing themselves, but then also feeling bad that they are because they realize that they need to be resting. And it's just this endless loop of feeling bad about yourself and feeling guilty. And I have definitely been there. I think I experienced that when my back was out of commission and I just felt useless in that moment. So I don't know. I guess my main point is just that it is tricky, that it is difficult, and can we just try to flow with it and try to be kind to ourselves without turning that requirement for self-kindness into another reason to feel guilty? Now, grit, on the other hand, at least how I want to talk about grit today, my experience of grit during the pandemic, this idea of sticking with it, grit was particularly difficult in the realm of my creative work because it felt like everything was just suspended. So then what was the grit for became a major question. I think grit sometimes, not always, can be easier when there's a lot of activity, when there's a lot of tasks that are very clear and you know what you're supposed to be doing. So even though you're tired and it's taking energy, you know what you're committed to, so you're going to stick with it. You're going to have that grit. But grit became much more excruciatingly difficult when there wasn't that clarity during the past couple years. And I can only speak for myself, where I may be talking specifically about my work as a theater writer. There was just that overall question of what's next? I don't see past the cloudiness of COVID. So while I want to stick with it, I don't actually know if it's gonna be worth it because I don't actually know what's going to happen. So I really had to reevaluate for myself, what is it that I am sticking with? Is it theater as an art form? Is it my desire to express? Is it the community of theater? And I kind of took time to explore those aspects, plus some. And I think the thing with grit is, like, in the end, what matters is that you stuck with it. Like, grit isn't a measure of gracefulness. Because if I look back on the past couple years, my grit was fumbly, messy. It was an emotional roller coaster. I felt very tossed about. And now, finally, even though we're still not necessarily in the clear pandemic-wise, but now that it seems like there might be some light at the end of whatever long tunnel this is, there is this appreciation of the fact that I stuck with whatever it was. But in the moment of sticking with, when things were so unclear and hanging in the balance, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel great to be like, yes, I am exhibiting grit. So maybe this video is just my way of saying that if you're in the throes of having to decide to be resilient because you just faced another fall or another obstacle, or to exhibit grit because you're finding that you just need to commit to keep going even if the way is not clear. And if either of those experiences don't feel great or triumphant, that's okay. Because in the moment, deciding to be resilient or have grit is not easy. does not always feel good and can feel actually very confusing and disorienting, especially when a giant carpet gets pulled out from underneath you, like this pandemic was for so many of us. So, as I always say, whatever that's worth to you, that's just been a bit of my experience with those words. And I feel like I'm a bit more mature slash wise because of it. And yet, it's not this like amazingly happy celebrational feeling. It's more like a inner understanding that this is part of life and part of how we move forward. Alrighty, well, that said, I hope you are finding ways to be resilient, to be restful, to have grit, to be kind to yourself. And please let me know if there are other specific things you think might be meaningful for me to talk about in these videos. And otherwise, I will see you next time.